There's a moment almost every man remembers. Not because something dramatic happened, because something finally became impossible to ignore. You're driving home after an ordinary day. You're scrolling past someone your age announcing another milestone, and a thought slips through that you can't push back out. I thought I would be further than this. Not richer, not famous. Further, more certain, more in control. And here's the part that actually hurts. It's not where you are, it's how quietly you got here. No single bad decision did this, just thousands of small ones that felt harmless at the time. Most men don't waste their 20s by failing, they waste them by drifting. And drift is dangerous for one reason: it never feels dangerous while it's happening.
Something shifts as a man approaches 30. He stops measuring his life against potential and starts measuring it against reality. Friends are buying homes, building businesses, leading teams, and a question you've avoided for years finally gets asked: how did they move forward while I stayed in the same place? There's a name for what's happening here: social comparison bias. Your brain doesn't measure your life against your own progress, it measures it against whoever's closest to you, which means the more successful your friends become, the more behind you feel, even if your own life hasn't gotten any worse. You're not actually falling, the ruler just changed. The dangerous part: nothing looks wrong from the outside. Job, bills paid, people think you're fine. You even tell yourself you're fine. But you know the difference between surviving and growing. You can feel it. Here's what most people miss. Comfort doesn't destroy a man all at once. It lowers his standards one excuse at a time until the excuse stops sounding like one. I'll start next month isn't a decision, it's the absence of one. And the absence of a decision is still a decision. Your environment makes it for you instead of you making it. Almost everyone is taught to fear failure. Almost no one is taught to fear comfort. That's exactly why comfort wins so often. Failure gets your attention immediately. Comfort puts you to sleep slowly. Psychologists call the mechanism loss aversion. Your brain feels the risk of losing more sharply than the reward of gaining. So instead of asking, "What could this become?" it asks, "What if this fails?" That single reflex has quietly kept millions of men inside lives they never actually chose. There's a second force working alongside it, called present bias. Your brain values comfort today far more than a bigger reward years from now, even when you know the math doesn't favor you. That's why "I'll start Monday" feels reasonable in the moment and insane in hindsight. You're not weak-willed. You're negotiating with a brain that was never built to care about a version of you that doesn't exist yet. I once knew a man who could talk for hours about the business he was going to build. Every conversation ended with, "I'm almost ready." 2 years later, the plans were more detailed, the excuses were more convincing. Nothing else had changed. He hadn't failed. He'd stayed comfortable long enough for a dream to become a story he told about himself. Here's the real test. If nothing about your daily habits changed, where would you actually be in 5 years? Not where you hope, where your current routine is already taking you. Your future isn't built from intentions, it's built from what you repeat when no one's watching. The second mistake is quieter and more expensive. It doesn't take your time, it takes your identity. Respect is earned by becoming something. Approval is earned by performing for someone. They rarely lead to the same place, and the moment your decisions start bending around other people's reactions, your life stops being entirely yours. Validation is addictive for a simple reason. Every compliment triggers a small dopamine hit, and dopamine always fades, so you go looking for the next one, another achievement to display, another audience. It's a loop with no finish line, because no amount of applause can fill a man who doesn't already respect himself. Underneath it is something psychologists call status anxiety, the quiet fear that your worth is being ranked constantly by people who barely think about you at all. It's not vanity, it's wiring. Humans tracked social rank for survival long before they tracked bank accounts. The problem is that instinct never got the memo that a stranger's opinion online isn't actually a threat to your life. There's a question worth sitting with. Do I want to be admired, or do I want to become admirable? One builds an image that needs constant maintenance. The other builds character that holds up when nobody's watching at all.
Most men never notice they're making this one. They spend years avoiding a single person, themselves. When was the last time you sat with no music, no notifications, nothing to escape into, just your own thoughts? For a lot of men, that silence feels unbearable. Not because it's painful, but because it strips away every distraction that keeps them from seeing themselves clearly. So the schedule fills up. Another scroll, another plan. Staying busy becomes a way of staying unconscious, because as long as your attention belongs to something else, it never has to belong to you. This is the difference people confuse constantly. Loneliness is wanting someone else's presence. Solitude is being at ease in your own. A man who can't sit with himself will eventually settle for whatever keeps him distracted. The wrong relationship, the wrong job, the wrong friend group, not because it's right, but because it saves him from being alone with his own mind.
Modern life rewards busyness. Everyone has plans, everyone is occupied, but movement and progress are not the same thing. You can answer messages all day and never move your actual life forward. You can work 70-hour weeks and still be avoiding the one decision that matters. Picture running as hard as you can every day for 10 years, only to find out you were running the wrong direction the entire time. Speed doesn't fix direction, it just gets you lost faster. That's why clarity beats intensity, and clarity only comes from a few uncomfortable questions. Why am I actually doing this? Who am I trying to impress? If nobody could see this decision, would I still make it? Most people never stop long enough to answer. Slowing down feels like falling behind. It's the opposite. Sometimes the fastest way forward is confirming you're walking toward the right place before you sprint.
Here's where it changes. Not when circumstances improve, when the question changes. Why did this happen to me? Becomes, what am I going to do about it? That single shift is where drift ends. Guilt says, I made a mistake. Shame says, I am the mistake. One moves you forward, the other keeps you stuck re-explaining yourself. Never confuse the two. You are not your wasted years. You're the decision you make after noticing them. And here's the actual mechanism most people skip past. Goals motivate. Standards transform. A goal says, I want to get in shape. A standard says, I don't negotiate with my health. A goal says, I want discipline. A standard says, this is simply how I live now. Goals are things you either hit or abandon. A standard is something your identity starts defending on its own. You stop needing motivation because the alternative no longer feels like you. If you want this to be more than a feeling, here's where it actually starts, in order. 1. Name the one avoidance, the conversation, the habit, the decision you've been circling for months. Not 5 things, 1. 2. Remove before you add. Cut the input that's feeding the drift, the scroll, the excuse, the person who keeps you comfortable, before you try to build anything new. 3. Pick a standard, not a goal. Turn the thing you've been trying into a rule you don't debate with yourself every morning. 4. Keep one promise this week that nobody else will know about. That's where self-trust is actually rebuilt, not in public, in private. You can't reclaim the years already spent, but you can make sure they're the last ones you waste. The world only ever sees the harvest. It never sees the seasons that produced it, the mornings nobody applauded, the decisions nobody noticed. That's fine. It was never supposed to be loud. The question was never really, why am I behind? It's, who do I need to become, starting with what I do in the next 24 hours? If this described a version of you, don't let it become just another video you agreed with. Let it become the one where something actually shifted. If it hit close, tell me where in the comments. I read them. And if you want more of this, subscribe. It helps more than you'd think.